I don't know. I'm feeling a bit shy talking to you today.
Oh yeah, yeah,
Yeah, because I, I could go into a great old spiel about the amazing experiences I've had and that, but I'm here to, and I'm not quite sure of the question I'm going to ask you.
yeah.
Yeah, but anyway, I just yeah, I just love you. I
Oh,
just
thanks,
love
Bob.
you, and
Oh, I
yeah,
love
with
you
your
too.
yeah, and dyslexia is, the gift of dyslexia. My son, you know, has had the label dyslexia, and I've had it to a very small extent, but um, and it's such freedom hearing you, you know, I don't know, it's just such, fr I think, yeah, it is such a gift for
Yeah, it
you.
is. Yeah. I don't know if I'd have always found it that, when I was a teenager and stuff. But I think I had really good dyslexic teachers. I had some really terrible teachers, but I often had a one-to-one dyslexic teacher. My parents would pay for me to have like this private dyslexic teacher. And I think they were really, really kind with helping me accept it. Because I think like the worst thing for a dyslexic person is when they fight it. Like I really try to battle it. I mean, you can work with it and you can help improve the situation, but if you really like fight it and don't want it and are really ashamed of it, then it's just going to be so many more problems. And I think that my well, like I think what they must have done. I mean, they spent many years working with me. Is spent a lot of time like teaching me to appreciate it. And that's really beautiful. They did that. But I had some really, really kind dyslexic teachers that were very understanding and very sweet, and kind of like tried to spend that time just working on my strengths and working on a way in which was accessible for me.
Yeah.
But there were times in like teenage years it was so, and childhood, so humiliating. Like the teacher
The burning, the,
forcing you to read in front of people. Sorry. Yeah.
oh, I interrupted you. The burn of not being able to understand something or do something, or
Yeah.
someone sits there
Yeah.
and waits for you to get it
Yeah.
without saying the thing, and it's just like, yeah, it's just like torture. I know it's
Yeah.
so weird.
It really is like if we like basically sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes what the education system is like for a dyslexic, it's a bit like, and maybe this is a wrong comparison, maybe I haven't thought it through it enough, but it is maybe like somebody not having a leg, and then they every day, or in certain classes are expected, so everybody else is allowed to run the race, but they're expected without any help to complete the race, but like just with one leg, but nobody else can see that they've only got one leg. Like and because it is a really different way of learning, and it's a different way of seeing the world, and it is, you can teach, like a dyslexic can learn and have really high intelligence, be so capable, but they need a different form of teaching. Like, I mean, it's terrible, like making a kid read out aloud, like a dyslexic read out aloud who can't really read. Everyone else is like reading like encyclopedias, and you're still on like Roger Red Hat. Roger Red Hat had a red hat. Everyone else is reading like Jane Austen. Roger Red Hat had a red hat.
Yeah. Whoa. Oh.
That then had a spell it out, Lisa, spell it out. Sounds like hat. Cat. Why would they do that? That's so funny though. But I mean, everyone that's dyslexic, or even people that were slow with reading, can understand that.
I bet there's a lot of people listening, who, um, yeah, it's kind of brutal. Like I've got this thing with my mum when cutting a roast, like a bit of beef roast, like this triangular bit of roast. And she says, just cut it across. This is when I was, I don't know, just cut it across the grain, Rob. And I still don't know this day how to do that. And it's
Yeah.
just like it just builds up such a thing. But
The
it's a gift.
pressure.
Oh, the pressure,
Pressure, like
yeah,
you're then like you come to cutting the meat and you're like, how many ways can I avoid of cutting the meat?
yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, it's like, and it's that pregnant pause,
Yeah.
can't you see it? Isn't it obvious? It's that terrible thing after and my son, yeah, because luckily I'd had a look at it myself, like my writing was like, at university, all I did before the exam was practice that I could write quickly. And then I just wrote like, 2 or 3 lines for each point. I had to write essays in the sciences and stuff. And all I did was just try and write as quickly as I could. I didn't think about what, the points were or anything like that. And I remember seeing girls, girls and well, she had so much time in the exams that she could underline everything,
Hmm.
he stuff like that, and all I was writing. But my son, my amazing son, he yeah, he went to university, which I never thought he would ever do. And there's like this design school of design here in Wellington, New Zealand, and it's like super pressure. It's like the worst thing. It's the worst way you could learn. They start with 250 and they get down to 50, and
Oh.
basically they just overload them until people break down and can't do it. And I've got another mate whose son went through it, and it's taken years to recover.
Mm.
And I was completely, I didn't know how to help my son at that time. And he ended up getting one off the highest mark, of the
Oh,
whole,
nice. Yeah.
and he was allowed to, they allowed him to do some things
Yeah.
without having to write it, and
Yeah.
all that sort of, they helped him out a bit like that. But
Yeah.
uh, it's such an incredible journey for a young person,
Yeah.
and the industry, the industry that he would be in, there's nothing like that at all. It doesn't even work like that. So it's just so horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And has he finished it now?
yeah, he's finished it, and yeah, he's finished it. I don't know. Part of me is just wondering when some of that crap's going to have to come out.
Yeah, totally.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean?
Yeah, no,
He
totally. Yeah.
but he's learnt so much. He's such an amazing. He's learnt. He's right into his. I was super sporty, and like it just wasn't his thing. And now he's like, geez, it's like me with my ass hanging out. He does all these amazing mountain bike rides and runs in the mountains, and he's nature, and we share a love of the outdoors and fishing and stuff, and
Yeah.
he just because the work that they do here in Wellington, it's the cap. I don't know if you know, it's the capital of New Zealand. It's all
Mm.
government, all
Mm.
government, and all the offices are just like, it's not very healthy environment really.
Yeah.
And he's sort of working in that in the moment. But yeah, so the skills he's learned are incredible. But yeah,
Yeah.
he's happy.
The,
He's happy.
yeah, and often people that have dyslexia and have been through the education system, they're very resourceful. So they
Yeah,
like, so you have to find ways around it, and I can't even tell you my ways of finding my way around things. But like, so say if it doesn't happen now because we got our phones, but like 20 years ago when we didn't have the phones, or 20 or 15 years ago, like I had to find ways in order to be able to spell or read out in public, when I didn't have my resources or I didn't have someone that could help me, and ways in which I could explain it to people, or I could get help, or I could do these things. And so you become really resourceful, and you become actually really confident. Like, and I feel like in some ways like failing so much gave me confidence, because like everyone always expected me to fail, and I got like, it kind of like gave me some form of confidence. It did the opposite way round. It was like, yeah, I've been the worst, like the worst of the worst. I've literally had people laughing at me, like I've really like
Mm.
constantly like, and I've, and so then it kind of, like one of the biggest struggles in life is people's fear of failure, but I kind of like did that very young. Like I burnt a lot of that stuff off. Like I had to deal with it. I had to find a way to process that and not they let it take me down.
Yeah, yeah.
Like it, and then so now like I notice that I don't really, I think it's also to do with awakening, but also before that, like I'm quite not so precious about things, about people seeing me fail. Like I don't mind so much. It's okay. It's, I mean, it's embarrassing sometimes, and yeah, it depends, I suppose, what you fail in. But often I can see that I can put myself out there. There's so there's so many great things to having that. Like it's a great learning lesson, but it's also, I suppose, like the attitude in which you take it with, because I can also see that it could break some people if they don't take it in the right attitude. It's the same with like if either of us now lost an arm or a leg, like you could have the attitude of this is going to be a gift and this is going to be something that helps me grow and expand, or this is like the worst thing that's happened to me, and constantly moaning and bitching about it inside your head, and then it takes you down.
Yeah. So, anyway, it's well, I said, yeah, it's certainly it's just a great thing, and it's a great thing. It's it's one of your wonderful one of your wonderful things. Um,
Thanks, Rob.
well, it allows such freedom for the people who talk to you. Yeah, because everyone's got their stuff, and
Mm,
to see you just dinker your way through, So
yeah.
yeah, it's very cool. So I've got something now, which is great. I took my lovely daughter to a midi course,
Oh, what,
and
sorry?
in my I'm going to say it again.
Yeah,
Don't worry about it. Miri. I'm going to say Miri course, which is like a traditional Maori healing
yeah. Oh, nice.
course. Yeah, for 2 days, and just recently, and it's well, how can I describe it? It's the divine, and it was so amazing for me to see a, a complete, or not a completely different, but exactly the same as, if you want to talk about non-duality,
Mm,
but presented with different names and gods, and it was an amazing thing, and I felt there was just a strange shift in me when I was on the course, and I've been and doing a whole lot of random things since. Um, yeah, I've been doing a whole lot of random things. Like the other night, I just walked into the New Zealand bush in the dark, and
mm.
I've done it with no torch or no nothing, and it's quite dangerous. Not with animals, thank goodness, but fall off the track or walking,
Yeah.
whatever. And I've done any number of um, like laughing completely out loud at the movies yesterday, in this quiet, this quiet. It was such a touching story. It was Mother's Day here. Is it Mother's Day all around the world, or is it just?
I think it's
Do you
most
have mum?
places but England. England's Mother's Day is in March. I think it is in America, it is in Germany.
Oh, it's in New Zealand yesterday. Yeah.
Oh, yesterday, I think it's today. Funny, isn't it?
Oh
All
man,
different.
yeah. Well, you're four
Oh,
o'clock in the morning for me now.
oh,
I'm so
sorry. Oh, yeah,
random.
yesterday. It was a Sunday for you, yeah. You're now the next day.
Yeah, and it's four, and you came on at 4 o'clock in the morning, and I
Oh,
just
wow.
random turned. I'm in a caravan at the moment. This caravan because I rent out my place when I don't have my kids, so I move out and come and stay in this awesome caravan. It's so fantastic. Um, and yeah, I was just thinking, oh man, I've I listened to Lisa this morning, but I think it'll either be 5 o'clock New Zealand in the morning or 6 o'clock. But I went, oh, I'm just going to turn it on now, and boom, there it was. You just started, So I guess I'm experiencing that flow of amazing things, um, and the conflict, or the thing I wanted to give to you was the I wanted to give to you. You've had a look at Wim Hof, eh? And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Um, so I've had a look at Wim Hof, and have you had a look at this person called Joe Dispenza?
No.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's a. I'm not going to talk. It's a breathing and it's a divine practice. It seems so aligned with non-duality. Spoken by an American guy, and when he gets interviewed, you all get this real sort of excited energy. That sort of, I don't know, there's something yucky about the energy.
Hmm.
But he does these guided sort of meditations and stuff like that. And he's taken the attitude, he's taken the way of um, science, science explaining, what happens in the body,
Hmm.
how when you're in a divine state, when let's say you're connected with a higher being, or I don't know what, in love or whatever, and he's measured all the body's reactions and all how it works, and he brings up the energy from the chakras up into the thing. That's enough about that. And I was, yeah, and I'm so I've got this. I have to breathe in during the day when well, I wanted to share that with you, and I was going to ring you up and ask you, or not ring you, but email you and see if you'd be open to listening to like an hour-long thing with me, because I feel like I don't know the truth. I don't know whether I'm getting sucked into. It sounds so like what you talk about or what is here, and along with this typical healing course and that, like I feel like you might remember, I've had a struggle with sort of basically poisoning myself by eating
Hmm.
junk food, all that sort of stuff, and for the last, I don't know, 4 days, it's like that whole thing has just disappeared, and I'm
Hmm.
eating like nothing but the most beautiful, nourishing food. I'm not poisoning myself anymore, and it's
Hmm.
yeah. I guess there's
Yeah,
still
I
some.
would be happy. I would be happy to listen to it. I can't say that I'll listen to the whole hour, but you can send it over and I'll listen to bits of it and um
Oh well, what I wondered, because that was my other question, is would you could we listen to it together?
Hmm.
I could just pause it or something like that, or is that like is that a technological
I think you can do that through Zoom. You can share, but maybe it's best to email me about this because everybody else is listening. Like so, and not, but they're like expecting to talk about non-duality. So it's better that maybe you email and
yeah,
ask me about that.
yeah,
But yeah,
okay,
but yeah, I think you can do those sorts of things like share it through Zoom and stuff. But you can look into that, or
that's,
you can email me and we can work something out.
yeah, and that brought me to the collective. There was seemed to be like a, what's your feeling about, I've done virtually all my spiritual, I don't want to call it that, but whatever, blah, by myself. And when I was on, is there like a collective um, power or
I don't know if there's a collective power. One thing I'll just say, or two things that just come into my mind when you say that, is that, like, one thing that I notice is that if there's something in vogue in society, so say like yellow is becoming in vogue in society, without even seeing the advertisements, like my mind will begin to think of that color. And so I feel like we're communicating telepathically with each other, like energetically or something. So there is this like if people are focused on something. Another thing that I notice is that, like with my booking system for my online sessions, I can only take 3 bookings a day because that's as much as I can do, but I have to open it up for the whole day. So if I'm not conscious, then 10 people could book for that day. So I have to shut it down quickly when people have booked. But what I notice is that people book all together. So it's like I might not have any booking for 2 weeks, and then suddenly everyone will book together. And it's not that it's just after my talk or something. It could be that somebody's advertising me somewhere and then the booking comes. But sometimes it's like regular people that I regularly see, so it's unlikely that they're going to have been advertised to. And I feel like it's an energetic thing. Like we're picking up on each other energetically. And when people are focusing on something, then it brings the attention of other people focusing to it. Another thing I notice happening is that I'll think about somebody and then they'll book a session. So it sounds like I'm controlling them, but I feel like we are. I don't think it's just me. I think all of us are connected, like a little bit like ants. So you know how ants, they communicate through smell, they communicate through vibration. And I'm sure we're doing that, like on a non-verbal level, not just sight as well, not looking, but on something where we're in different rooms and we're picking up each other's energies and each other's feelings. So I feel like as people get more and more into non-duality, it'll be like a snowball effect. There's also another theory called memes. I forget who made that up. They're Richard or somebody Dorking, and another lady called Suzanne something at Oxford University. This idea of memes, that ideas become something, they call it like the ideas become these things like memes. And it's like the idea of genes. You know how genes are trying to propagate themselves, so they're trying to breed, so they get bigger and bigger and bigger and grow. And they have this about ideas, that, so say the idea of God, it's like all ideas, like everything else, want to grow. So it's really interesting. Like there's a whole philosophy around it. You have to read it, but it's that the intelligence wants to grow, or the information wants to grow. So the information is attracted to itself and attracted to expanding as well. So there's all these different things, and I don't really know how it's working on the human level, and I don't know if anyone could, because it's way more complicated than we could think. But there does seem to be some power in the collective. I also notice when I hold meditations or when I hold talks, like if there is more light energy in the room, so people are more free in the room, then it can penetrate everybody else, so it can pick the whole energy up in the room. But it equally works as the other way. If there's more darkness in the room, then that will then tumble everyone over. And I see it. I can tell that there's too much darkness in the room, and I can see people like falling over. Like when I mean darkness, I mean like difficult suffering energy. And it's like then the whole room, and I feel like I have to work really hard to like try and like pick people up when that begins to happen. But sometimes you go into a room and there's enough people with open energy that it kind of is infectious and it infects everybody else.
Yeah,
And like,
that was really my question
yeah,
was that. Yeah, the because I feel like I want to share, I want to, a shared experience when I'm because what opened it, I was on a fasting retreat, and there was lots of people and no one, and I've been looking at the Tao Te Ching, and some of them were, a couple of ladies were interested. So, oh, actually, I was just sitting in a room listening to it, and they came in, and having them in the room, I, I, it became super intense for me. I,
mm,
I started crying. It's the truths of, and they were just sitting there,
mm,
and I
yeah,
wondered whether, that was because I've done everything myself,
yeah. There
everything,
is,
everything.
yeah, there is like a group energy that comes about, and it is, yeah, it's, yeah. We are collective animals on the human, not collective animals. We are community animals on the human level, and there's so much more to our interaction than what can be perceived. So I would say that. I would also say about doing it by yourself um, is is that also like a personality trait. So sometimes we develop like certain personality traits where like there could be the personality trait of feeling like you're your own island and therefore always wanting to do things yourself or tending to rely less on other people. So you are more your own island, and so then getting into this subject, it's more like maybe you learn from other people, but you keep it like a bit of a solo expedition, because there there is a personality trait to be solo, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just noticing it, like that there might be that. But really, I feel like deep down, what humans want at the end is human connection. So I sometimes think that if you have that tendency, it's maybe sometimes more of a defense than it is like your true calling, because I feel like all of us have connection and intimacy needs on the human level. Like we aren't a tiger. We're a community based organism or animal or whatever you want to call us, human being, where we survive together, we survive in a group. And it's only like the last like 1,000 years, particularly the last couple of 100 years, where we've become more and more solo. And I don't think that it's so natural. I think our tendency is to want to be together, but we don't always know how to be together because we're not really taught very good communication techniques, and we don't really know how to communicate as groups. And so what we do is we tend to avoid each other, whereas really deep down we want connection, we want love, we want intimacy, we want community, we want security, we want safety. And so that's what I would just say. Like when I hear people that tend to do the spiritual process by themselves, it's really beautiful and it can be really intense and you can have massive changes, but also it sometimes can be your go-to defense mechanism to be away from humans, because on some level there is a lack of trust with your ability to deal with humans or with the other person.
Oh yeah, yeah.
And so sometimes like going in
So
and exploring that, like exploring your intimacy and your attachment and your ability to define yourself in front of other people. Like when I say define yourself, I mean another word, but I can't say it, so I'm just compromising. But differentiate. So your ability to be able to
yeah,
define yourself from what the other person wants or what the other person needs. So in that moment when those people came in, it might be that what you needed was hug, or what you needed was for them to leave, but you found their energy overtook you and you didn't know how to navigate that or something. But it could be all types of things. Like, I'm just throwing things out there.
Yeah, no, you really hit the nail on the head there.
So
I've had
so
this. Yeah,
yeah, so
yeah,
sometimes going towards a group, not only for the collective energy of the group, which it can be a beautiful thing, but it's also like then learning more about like what projections or ideas or defenses come up in you in the group. What do you, because like somebody said to me the other day in a session, and I thought this was such a great way to describe it. Somebody had said it to them, is that take your intimate relationship, your most intimate relationship you've had, like romantic relationship, and look at your tendencies in romantic relationships, and that is how you would deal with the whole of your life. Like, it will be the way that you deal with your home, it will be the way that you deal with the table, the chair, timeline, your taxes. And the reason that is because we're always, relationship is a way of being. We're always relating to an object, and so our habit of relating will always appear the same, if you see what I mean, even if it
mhm,
is with an inanimate object.
yeah. I absolutely. Relationship is one of those, like God, one of those words that
Yeah,
is
but that's the way
completely.
we'll do with everything. So if you're avoidant in relationship, then you'll be avoidant in other areas, but it might be easier in other areas, because if you avoid, say, washing up or something, then the unwashed up dishes won't argue with you. You,
Yeah.
like, so,
Funnily, you should say that. I've got my sink in the caravan is full of unwashed dishes right now.
yeah.
because we've had some. It's off the grid where I am, so I've got no power except for, and it's run out. So
Yeah.
no power means no water, means no lights, means no nothing. But yeah, no, that's so. And I played team sports, and
Yeah.
I loved it. And there's an incredible when a rugby team is like it doesn't happen often, but when the collective, I always
Yeah.
said, like, it's individual. It's an individual game, no doubt. If you don't punch that guy, or you don't tackle that guy, you don't do your bit. And everyone said, "Oh, it's a team sport. It's a team sport." And every now and again it was, but I go to some group things, and as soon as they say the word tribe and stuff, I just feel like saying, "Oh, fuck," fuck up.
What do you mean? What does that mean? Like, back up? Like, too much?
Oh, it just means, like, yeah, it's like I don't want to be like everyone else.
Oh
I don't
yeah.
want to. I've had this thing where if someone suggests I do something, like probably the earliest thing, I had a really messy room at university, and I had a girlfriend. She came round and she'd come round, and that, and then one time she said to me, "Oh, Rob, would you mind cleaning up your room a bit?" Because it was like, I had an apple core growing. It was growing mold, out of the carpet and stuff, because it was one of those student flats, which was like, it was like never got any sun. It was just like, and it was, and as soon as she said that to me, I said, "Oh, hey, that's it, see you later."
Yeah. And that's so interesting, because that most probably will be like a deep schema in you. And that can, and I'm just going to theorize. Like, if we were in a one-to-one session, I would go more into like your thoughts and your feelings. But just because we're like, I'm doing a talk, I'll just theorize about why something like
Boring
that could,
everyone.
huh? So,
We're boring everyone.
yeah, yeah, I don't know about that. But so if I theorize, like, so that idea like could come from say like over dominant parents or under dominant parents, or like a trauma. There could have been something which traumatized you when somebody said you've got to do this, you've got to do this, and then something really bad happened when you did it. There could be so many reasons, but it also could be that you had like too many rights taken away as a child, Or another reason could be that you saw other people's ideas as unsafe. So you saw other people as unsafe, you saw their ideas as incompetent or unsafe, and then therefore you rejected other people's ideas. So you became like your own island. There could be so many different reasons, and I'm not saying that is why you're doing it. I'm just giving a theory as to why that happened. And that, but then when we make up these conclusions, they don't present themselves as conscious, as something conscious that we can see. So when that girlfriend came around and said that to you, you just felt like you didn't like the girlfriend. You're like, bye bye.
Yeah, man.
And then that happens the same with like teachers. So if a teacher is too prescriptive, then or too domineering or too pushy in some way, then it's like bye bye, and you push them away, and you think it's something to do with them. The same with, it could be a piece of furniture could do that. I know that sounds really weird, but it could dominate the room, or it could look domineering, and then we think we don't like it because it's our personality and we like certain things, but it's actually because you see that object as domineering or as taking over or as infringing on something of yours, whatever the idea is. And this is where that statement where they said, you know, take your relationship and look at your relationships, and that's how you'll relate with everything in your life, because your job is a relationship, your work is a relationship, your environment is a relationship. Because the way that we function as humans is subject-object. I am a subject in relationship to that object, no matter who it is that you're relating to. And we learn these relationship skills in really early and young in life. Like, so we learn them in, you know, like the first 6 years, like our tendencies of how we relate. We can train them. But it'll be the same way you see a tree. So if a tree is infringing too much on you, if you see it in the same light, and you won't even notice it, like a feeling will appear that's a similar feeling to that girlfriend telling you to clean your room, just looking at a tree, and then you'll think you don't like the tree, whereas actually that's not really what's happening. And we're doing it all the time. Like, I'm doing it, everybody's doing it. We have these judgments inside of us, and they're so subtle. And we think this is a personality. We think this is I. Maybe not us here listening to this talk, but most people in society think that their likes and their not likes is who they are, that forms them. Whereas really, we're like these machines that are just responding and forming new likes and not likes that are all dependent on something that came from the past. It's beautiful. And what we are is that solid looking that never changes. And you can see how that relates to the law of attraction, because the way in which you look at the tree or look at your environment is going to define what you bring in and what you reject from your environment, even though it's completely impersonal. Sorry, I interrupted you again, Rob.
No, you didn't. You didn't at all.
It's so beautiful, because every way you look, if you look in the timeline or if you look right here, everything is oneness. So everything you're picking and you're choosing now is dependent on everything that came before. It's not a soul or a singular entity that is having free will and making choice. It's total love. Like, so everything is innocent. Everybody is innocent. There is nobody that's guilty. There is life happening. There is meant to be guilt to an extent in the human body, because we're meant to, you know, not eat our best friend. We're meant to not just take and steal from everyone else. Like, we live as a community. Like, we have all these emotions and they're important, but they're not actually you. They're very impersonal. They're just a functioning happening. Who you are is this spaciousness, is this infinite nature, this expansion. I'm sorry for burping after saying that. It was so beautiful, and then burp. Sorry. I don't even see me as saying something that's so beautiful in that. Like, so I often say that's so beautiful, but I see it as like love expressing itself, and I don't see it as my words at all. At all.
No, I get that. You know, it's just like I get that when I think, hopefully, well, I imagine other people get that as well.
Depends if I trigger the positive response or the negative response. So if they've had a mother like me that they didn't like, or they had someone at school that traumatized them like me, and that will easily like go into the she's a narcissist. she's out to grab all the power from her, it'll go into their story. But whereas if I've not my character type, like the what I present, it doesn't trigger those sorts of things. So that, and then there is this deeper possibility where there has been like a lot of shifting of the attachment to self, and then there is the ability to hear it from a deeper level where it's beyond being human. There's a resonance that happens that's love, that's beyond the human level, but it often gets confused in the human level.
Hey, thank you so much.
With pleasure, Rob. It was lovely speaking with you.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Lots of love.
Yeah, and send me the email and we can talk about the watching the video.
Yeah. I mean, just being able to speak it with you now is just so valuable. Even whether that happens or not is, it's better. So, thank you all the way from
Rob.
New Zealand where COVID, we don't even, oh no, that thing we're not allowed to talk about doesn't even hardly even registers. So
yeah, lucky you guys.
lots of
We're
love,
at the epicenter here in Europe, I think. No, actually, India is now.
lots of love to you
Yeah.
guys. We like it's just ridiculous. We've been able to do like everything, anytime, anywhere. Now I think you can go to Australia, and everyone's just buying camper vans and traveling around the country because we spend like $2 billion a year in traveling overseas or something.
Wow.
So now our economy is going like gangbusters because everyone's buying, spa pools and doing up their houses and.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, it's just weird. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Right. Thanks, Rob.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye.